going on? What is going on? Welcome to another episode of Trucker Talk. My brother George, how are you doing this evening, my
I'm
brother?
doing pretty good. Weather's nice here in Tennessee, so it's a good thing.
That's good. How was your work week? You have
Oh,
a
always
or
good. It's good. It's work.
okay, but as far as okay, family life, everything
Everything's
good.
good. Yes.
Okay, well, as far as me, man, I've had a great week, man. But one of the good things I like doing during the week, which I'll talk about my niece and nephew, like I enjoy when I can get off work, pick them up, and bring them over, and just they like kids on Christmas. I don't know why, but they just they bring like I mean they bring joy in my life. But as far as work, work is work. I'm blessed. My job is um it's a good job, and they're making changes, and the company that I used to work for, they was bought out, so we just adjusting right now. But it's everything is looking up though, man.
Yeah,
Looking up.
anytime a company buys out, it's always readjusting everything to what their specs are, to how they what going to work kind of move each company will have. Things do change. You just have to readjust and adjust to their beliefs and go on with it.
Right, right, right. I mean, I agree. So yeah, like I said, I like what's taking place, and I'm all about change. As far as this weekend, I think I asked you about your week, but weekend, how was your weekend this weekend?
Oh, it's good. It was good. Same old stuff. I do my chores around the house. I do my grocery
Come
shopping,
on, George.
and I'm living. Hey, as long as everything
well,
good, I'm good.
well, I tell you, okay, me, I went and picked my mama up and took her to go visit her sister. She's 80. She'll be 89 this year. So we what we try to do, well, not try to do, what we do is we pick, depending on the time of the year, we will go out, spend some time with her. And she lives out in Kingston. And so they got a Buddy's barbecue, which, that's our food of choice, Buddy's
Oh
barbecue.
yeah,
So but yesterday, we went out there, spent some time with her, man, and it's always good to, just watch her and my mom just interact, and they just spend that time. And I know she appreciates it,
oh yeah.
and she cherishes it, man. And that's uh that's one of my, well, another positive, for the weekend. It's nice. But I'm gonna read this quote, and then I'm gonna go into what we're gonna, well, I'm gonna talk about what we're gonna talk about. But this quote, it says, each generation reap what the former generation has sown.
Oh, that's pretty good. I like that.
I
I
mean,
like
that's
that. That can be good or bad too, and that's the thing about it. Again, it's another adjustment, regardless.
man, it's deep because okay, episode 9. We want to talk about from, hold on, I'm gonna go back because I skipped what I was going to start. Let me
Oh, you
I
good? You good? Get on
I
track.
meant to talk about the church today, because that's one
Oh
of the things
yeah.
I got. But Pastor Austin, I mean, going back to that church service today, man, I like the beginning of well, before, when before he started preaching, he was showing the renovations, yeah,
Renovation of the church of the new space we
of the
call it.
new
Yes.
space, man. And so I got to go back and tell the backstory because if it wasn't for you, I would have, I would have never found heart and soul. And so,
Wow.
right there, that couch, I would never forget. I was sitting on that couch, and I ain't ashamed to say it. I was drunk, sitting there drinking my whiskey, and I'll never forget. You sent me that text message. It was like, "Hey, man, you want to go to church?" And I was going through it. I was fun. I was just dealing with, life, dealing with, know, me, dealing with myself, and all the materialistic things in the world. And so I remember I started going last year in January. And so the thing about it is, when I think about church, just being going there, for a year now, and watching all the changes, and them actually about to find, it's been 4 years. They was having church at a Bearden High School's auditorium for 4 years. And so to see that change, it's like, man, like they've come a long ways. But me going to the church, and of course, I know he he mentioned in service, he, you know, he's looking for people to serve. so, so my end goal eventually, you know, I will be, you know, finding me something to do because, you know, I like the things that they're doing with the church and just direction. And it's just, it's and like me and my mother had this conversation, we was talking, and as far as the environment, when you go to a church, you see like babies, toddlers, and you see all of the different age groups and stuff. That's a growing church.
Yes.
Now, when you go to a church, and no offense, you see older people, and it's just a bunch of older people. That's basically a dying church. So I just, you know, from going there a year and watching all the things that Austin has done, and you know, Tristan and your son Nathaniel, and Annie and all the other people that are on the staff. I mean, they've done a lot of. I mean, it's a beautiful sight. Now, I wanted to say thank you for because you sowed that seed when you sent that text. I could have just ignored it. You know, I could have been like, man, let me just go ahead and kill the rest of this bottle and just go to bed, wake up with the same problems on my mind. You know, and I say that to say this, Austin. You know, going into the service today, he was talking about how people come to church with 99.1 problem, and then you know they leave church with 99.1 problem. Instead of going to church and you know leaving it for God, you know, putting it on the altar and saying, "Hey God, you know, I want you to help me with my, you know, help me work through my problems." And that's kind of like what because I was one of those. I stopped going to church because I was like, you know, why am I gonna go to this church? Everybody's judgmental, blah blah blah. So as I started working more on myself, you know, I've started spiritually just working on myself, and I'm like, okay, I can get a different point of view or point of view or a different look at things, you know, by looking at it from a different angle versus me doing the things that I'm used to the way that I'm doing them.
That's the thing about it. You know, like I said, I'm just glad I was in that position where I said, you know, I'm going to invite you. And one of my things I like is the opportunity that I gave you. And it wasn't planned. It just like my wife didn't feel like going to church that day. I said, you know, let me see if Matthew wants to go to church. And, you know, there again, Austin always says, invite someone, you know,
Right.
always be willing to invite someone. And I said, let me just, you know, check you, see if, you know, either you can will or you won't. And my son has a great story about going when he got started in church. You know, he did a whole sermon about it. But there again, I was glad you accepted it because it felt like I had done something good for that day and
Yes.
also good for you. And I didn't do it for you. I did it really. I wanted you to go and see a different experience in um, just life itself. And I still invite people to this day. I invite
Right.
people all the time, or I was sending them the sermon. And you know, we can talk about this for a long time because you sit and talk about church, and it's just a place you can kind of go and you kind of like say one of my favorite songs I like to hear right now is "There's No Waste Left at the Altar" or "There's No Waste at the Altar" by Elevation Rhythm, and I listen to it
Nice.
singly every single day, and it's kind of same thing like Pastor Austin was talking about. Come to church, kind of try to leave those problems there, take them to the altar and leave them.
Right.
Don't take them back with you because taking them back with you, you just carrying that bag around. Talking about baggage, you carry that all that baggage back around with you all the time. Leave it there at the altar and just pray about it. You know, I mean, everybody has a different way of doing things and dealing. That was one of my favorite songs. "No Waste Left at the Altar." So take it to the
Nice.
altar and leave it there. Now he did pretty good. That was a good sermon today, which they all are good, but some of them just kind of hit home sometimes.
Yeah, and what he was talking about, you know, basically we're in a new series, and was it how will we change? And
Yeah.
is he was giving us the 4 points, but he gave us 3 points today, and he, you know, basically, you know, come back, you'll get the 4 point, but the 3 points, you know, was encourage people, challenge people, and then add value to people. And I was like, wow. So if you practice those things, you think about that, man, make a difference in just anybody's life that you have around you. So
That's kind of really what we try to do as better people. Just try to make people's lives a lot better because it's everything that's going on in the world today. It's so easy to get caught up in it, and you forget about we all are humans and need we need compassion, we need
right.
understanding. We need basically we need love.
Yes.
And he gave that scenario about he got the coffee from one of the fast food places. I mean
Yes.
service stations, and that kind of threw him. I can see where that would like, wow, I just got a free cup of coffee, but the lady just felt entitled to like, I'm gonna just give him a cup of coffee. I'm gonna make his day, and of course
Yes.
he said it changed
Yes.
it changed his perspective for the day. And again, as he gives, it kind of like that. It's a pay it forward kind of thing.
Yeah, and like he said, because he said she read, and not, with emotional intelligence is one of those things. She could see the expression on his face. And like he said, he was, he had the renovations with the church and all that, things wasn't going the way it's supposed to.
Yeah,
So I was like, dang, that's deep. But she's seen that. She's like, well, let me just
yeah.
make his day. So I'm like, okay.
That was awesome. That was really
That,
awesome.
that
And
would,
I've witnessed that sometime. I had a lady actually spot my they people give you stuff all the time, even ventures. So normally we don't give so much all the time. I think we want to, but
right.
when you find an opportunity to make someone's day, I think try to do so because it makes their day. And to me, it makes my day when I can make somebody's day as well.
Yeah, it does, man. I agree with you on that. But we're gonna start out with these debate. Okay. I can't. I know some people in this time. We're gonna start out with the baby boomers. Okay, the baby boomers, they was born 1946, 1946 and 1964. This generation experienced a sharp increase in birth rates after World War II. So when I think of, like, only people I can think of is Miss Johnson, um, Harold, his sister, and like maybe some other people. But when I think about that, going back to that generation, as far as like, I want to go to like the work ethic. Let's go to that. As far as comparing the work ethic then to the people, I guess, the work ethic now. So when I look at those people, when I've talked to them, they've worked at a job for like
Yeah,
35,
bro.
40, like they stayed with the job that they was with. So normally when I meet some, or when I'm talking to somebody like that, I listen to them and just, I'm soaking in all the knowledge. And when they telling me, hey, back in the days, we did this, we did that. Like I'm sitting there thinking, like, I'm looking, they didn't have computers, they didn't have
Right.
smartphones, they didn't have none of that. So imagine being their age. And I remember her husband, he was in the army, and she was talking about how they would like they communicated through mail.
Yes, yeah, that was the snail mail that takes a week. Even back, I can kind of relate to some of that because I was born during that time, and things were still. I think too, if you think about it, there weren't as many. I don't think there was as many jobs available, so there
Okay.
was no opportunity to say I'm gonna skip from job to job. And of course, nowadays, you can get a job. You can quit one job on Friday
Yeah.
and start another job on Monday.
Right.
Easy, you can go from job to job. And I think back then there was a limit to what you had to choose from. Factory work was one of them. And if you got a factory job, most time they paid pretty well. So you like based on the economic standards back then, the jobs were like, oh man, I'm working here, so I'm making good money. And so they typically stayed at those jobs because it was almost like security there. You got a good job,
Right.
work you weren't going to get laid off anytime soon, so you were job the entire time. But now you can quit a job, like say on Friday, and you have a new job on Monday, and you just keep going. So I think the ethics are different based on the circumstances that we're all in. Most people back then they were older, so they had new families growing up or developing new families.
Right.
So they didn't want to jump around from job to job. So once they found the job, and I think they just like, what, I'm gonna stick get the house that I want, or get the make my family secure within this job. Versus now, like, oh, I can quit this job and I have another job on Monday.
It's a whole nother ball game, but
Different.
it's different. So I'm gonna go back. So the next generation is Generation X, and those are the people that was born between 1965 and 1980. Is this generation often called the bridge generation because they help connect previous generations to the digital age? And so this quote I'm gonna say, it says, each generation has a chance to change the world, or each generation has the chance to leave the world better than they found it. So as far as that generation, I think about my mother and them, because I guess but I want to I want to tap into the relationship, more of the relationship and how things have changed over time. So when I go back to the digital age, you talk about that. It's like, I don't know. I guess depending on the if they was, well, I'm not gonna say if it's a biblical, 'cause most biblical relationships then the wife submitted to the husband and kind of went with the flow. And so most examples I've seen, that's what I've seen, I guess, back in that generation.
That's interesting too, because you think about it now, because you'd almost have to do a study, I guess, to get the true facts. But I think a lot of that is based on the beliefs and what they believed back then. You have to look at time era that things have changed. Of course, we kind of go from flip flop to flip flop.
Right.
Back then, or you go now, most people are well, say some women are more independent, so they don't really say, I'm gonna do this, I'm gonna do that, and I'm an independent woman.
Right.
There's nothing wrong with that. I think back then you had that, but it wasn't as pronounced as it is now.
Right. It's man, it's different, man. And it's like I'm gonna go to this next generation, the millenniums. And that's my generation, the millenniums, born between 1981 and 1999. It says this generation got its name because the oldest member became adults at the turn of the millennium. And I never forget, man, when I graduated high school. I graduated high school in 2020 or 2002. I was about to say 2022, but 2002. And I remember when in 2000 or 1999, they was talking about, man, you got to buy another computer because when it hits zero, it's gonna wipe everything's gonna change. I thought Lord forgive me. I thought the world was coming to an end. I'm sitting there like in my window looking outside, thinking like, man, this world about to change. And they come up with all these different sayings because you got, somebody talk about the Mayans or the Mayans. They talk about they can predict or whatever when the world's coming to an end. So I was scared, man. I was like, man. But even in those times, like I guess when I think about, I mean, times was different then. It was different. As far as, I mean, everything. As far as, I mean, think music. I don't even think we had I think AOL. I don't know if you remember dial up.
Dial up, yeah.
They had dial up back then.
Yeah, you sit there.
I'm trying to think my brain.
You try to sit there, you dial, you have to hit the phone, and you have to have a phone line for it also. So you didn't have a phone line, you were just out of luck, But that was probably the start of the computer era, it really was. So it changes things. And of course, like we talked about this before, times do change. And then as time changes, technology takes over and makes things move a little bit faster than you know. Because can't wait for things not to happen. You got to make them happen in order to have change.
Right. And in my era, as far as that times, you think about the shift as far as the mind shift or the mindset shift. But I remember, and you probably remember, people burned CDs. So you had CDs, movies. You remember? I mean, and people was hustling back then. Like they was selling you go to any dang gas station, whatever. They selling CDs, movies that just come out, and I'm just like, but you go back to now to then, that's a whole nother different time, and that's just been 20 something years ago.
Wow,
18, 17 years ago. It ain't been that long ago.
No, it hadn't been that long. That's the thing about it. And because I grew up in the era of cassettes and 8-tracks, so this is all falling forward. Yeah, you go from a 8-track to a cassette, and when the CDs first came out, and back then, you had a little, what we call a little CD player that was pretty big, and you had it strapped to the side of your waist on your belt clip, and it was a CD because that was like the new thing then, and of course back then, cassettes were pretty cool because the cassette came with the radio, so you had AM/FM radio with the cassette built in. So I've seen the changes that has made, and there's also a progress because now you go to what SD cards and all that stuff. So things have really changed. A lot smaller now too. You're not having to carry something around that everybody in the world can see.
Well, I was gonna say, yeah, and I remember this well when I was in, I think when I was in high school, we had the CD players and and it would skip. So if you had to hold this CD player, hold that thing tight because when the bus would hit the bumps, they could skip. You like, dang it. Even with the cassettes, I had a cassette. I remember when the Master P, what's the name of that CD? He came out with them CD. He came out with a CD, and my brother had bought the cassette, and he bought the cassette. It was like I think a double disc set, and he got 2 cassettes, and it had I don't know. It was crazy because you had to you had to fast forward the
Yep.
cassette player to get to whatever side. I was just like, it took forever versus how
Yes.
how things are digital now. But um, that goes to the going into the Generation Z. Like, man, Generation Z. Well, I'm gonna say Generation Z babies. They was born between 1997 and 2012, and this generation is known as the digital natives because they're the first generation to grow up with the
Internet, yeah.
internet.
Which is a
And
good thing.
is that good
I
or
think it is. I
bad?
mean, with technology moving, you gotta catch up. And also, even the babies now, they're learning technology so much sooner, you know.
Well, yeah, with my niece, like my I never forget even with my niece and nephew, she's 3, he's 5, and it's like I remember even I go back to last year and it's like watching her operate her little tablet and it's like she act like she know what she's doing. And when you try to be like, I
Wow.
try to help her out, she
Yeah.
like she don't want me, she's like she know what she's
Because
doing.
almost like their brain is already geared to that, which
Yes.
is amazing. It really is. And of course, she has no exposure to that, but she's progressing sooner than I think she is because
Yes.
she's also practicing with this thing. So this is all she got. This is the window to the world. That's what it boils down to.
Yeah, but saying that, but talking about the Generation Z, what do you think as far as the impact of the social media and the relationships with the family bonds like that changes a lot
Ooh,
of
that changed
things.
a lot of things. It really has. Because, and I think again, we have to look at how each family is structured. Sometimes, just like my son, Nathaniel, he has his son, there's a limit to the screen time.
Okay.
But that it helps him, but I think he's getting so used to screen time, he learns a lot from screen time. But of course, they teach him stuff also as well, so
Right.
you don't have to worry about. He's not being taught by the laptop or the phone. He's actually being, say, basically verbally told what to do and how to do certain things through interaction from the parent versus giving him a tablet and say, "Here you go," when you walk off and leave your kid to be learned by, say, a computer.
Right. And that's like, and I've seen some people parent like that when it comes to kids, and it's like they think they can throw like even video game or a
Yes.
tablet, and it's like that raises their kids. Kid is learning all these things, and they're like, well, where do they learn all that? They learn it from
Exactly. Yes.
technology that you
Yes.
stuck in their
Yes.
face.
Yeah.
So,
And it's not a bad thing that they learn. It just
no,
you have to structure what they learn and when they learn it.
yeah, and you have to kind of have parental controls
Yes.
over the content that they're looking at,
Yes.
also too. Because
Yes.
if you don't,
Out there.
man,
It's out there.
they'll know
Woo.
everything. So, and I say this. I'm gonna say this. That's one quote, and then I'm gonna go into the last generation. But one generation sacrifices become the next generation's opportunities. So going into the generation Alpha, which those was the kids that was born in 2013. Later, this generation comes after the Generation Z. So I just I heard something disturb me this week, or last week in Halls Middle School. They had like a bomb threat, but it was like 3 days in a row. So when I think about the Generation Alpha, I think about that, and I'm just like, I remember when we was in, when I was in school, we never, all of that really wasn't going on, but it's just my personal feelings, whatever about it. I think it's kind of like if a kid, not saying that's what happened, but if they got a test or something, because I think they had some tests on a couple of them days, and it's like, but back then when if somebody would do it, not saying they didn't take it as serious, but they really didn't catch the kid. But now it's like they have the technology and stuff to be able to catch whoever's doing it now. But that disturbed me because I'm just like, not saying these kids are weaker, but as far as emotionally and all that, they do stuff without thinking about it. Like they're not gonna have no consequences to stuff like that.
It is kind of sad when you think about it. And you can probably turn on the news and get all this negative news and bad news. And there again, we look at opinions, and this is mine. And we talked about this before. We not. I think sometimes people just have the lack of respect for just human beings in general. And sometimes it's a lack of respect for yourself, because if you
Right.
do stuff like this, obviously you have no care about anybody else, or how the feelings that think that you change when you do that. There's a domino effect to all of this,
It's a big domino effect.
changes everything. So, in my opinion, I think sometimes the lack of respect for yourself and the lack of respect for mankind, it increases. And we've touched on this before. Some of it, there's a mental capacity of this as well. So,
Right.
you got to look deeper into just why to do this, but there's a deeper connection to why they did it. They may not even know, but at their brain level at that time, it happened. You go back, oh gosh, years ago when this lady killed her kids. It's like, how do you do that? And she
Wow.
drowned them. Then there's one that she let the car roll off into the river. It's like, but we can't never process that because our brain has not. We don't think that way, so we can't
Right.
really say, "Oh, well, I wouldn't do that." Well, maybe not at you're in now, but you
Right.
don't know what kind of mind thought that person was in when all this happened. Just like anything else that we do, we talked about this in other episodes. Is that emotions? It can change everything about a person.
Well, they can, and like you said, the state of mind. And I mean,
Yes.
people. Not saying people can downplay mental health all they want, and it's like you can't really downplay it because just like I had a friend of mine, he's a good friend. Had a conversation, and we just going back and forth. And I respect everybody's opinion. We can agree to disagree, but I respect their people's opinion. And he just gave the example, like kind of like cancer. Like, do they have a cure for cancer? It's like, no, they don't have a cure for cancer, but they're still treating people. Okay, I go to therapy. Is going to therapy gonna fix me? No, not fix me, but I can work on myself. And it's not I mean, just like I'll use church for an example. I'm gonna throw church in there. People go to church, and it's like, you can go to church, but church ain't going to take away all your problems. Church will help you work through, your problems and help you have that close relationship to God. So it's like, just like I'm on blood pressure medication. I can exercise and do all this stuff and eat all these greens and vegetables, but at the end of the day, you can do things to treat and help, work on yourself or make things better or easier for you. But there's not okay, this is gonna take this pill or drink this juice and it's gonna fix you. I don't see that, but that's just my feelings about it.
It's called a miracle drug or a wonder drug or a miracle whatever toxation or whatever, not toxation, but a miracle toxin that you can drink and cure the problem. 'Cause problems are problems. They are real.
They are
But you
real.
can try to manage them the best you can. It's all about managing.
Yeah, manage them and working through them, and that's about the best you can do. And so, that's why, like I said, I'm taking this year personal, man. But hey, as always, I'm gonna go ahead. I'm gonna wrap this episode up, man. And from one brother to another, appreciate you, man.
Appreciate
As
y'all.
always, man. And we'll see y'all next week.
It's the drip from me, Strozar.